everybody! Welcome back to A Case of the Jills. On this channel, I spend a lot of time talking about hypothalamic amenorrhea and overtraining. And I spend a lot of time trying to help you figure out how to come back from both of those conditions. I also want to make sure that I'm bringing value to you by telling you the realities of recovering from both or either of those situations. So today I want to talk to you about something that's actually happening to me right now. So this is really personal and I want to share it with you because this is a journey, right? And we're learning as we go. And this was something that I did not recognize was a problem. Now that I do, I want to share it with you. So today we're going to talk about what you as the athlete need to know about estrogen dominance. We are no strangers to hormonal imbalances here on this channel. The concept of estrogen dominance is another hormonal imbalance that we need to be aware of. The term estrogen dominance describes a situation that happens when overall the estrogen production in the body is higher than the progesterone production in the body. Remember, it's just a difference between the two. So estrogen production can actually be high, medium, or very low, but the comparative progesterone level is still much lower. I'm being clear about this because there are those of you out there going, God, I wish I could have like one little bit of estrogen, never mind have to have an abundance of estrogen. This can actually happen when you have low estrogen just as easily. Because again, if your progesterone level is much lower than even your low estrogen level, this can still happen. I want to make it clear that I'm going to be talking about this condition as it relates to athletes. There's a lot of information out there on the interwebs about women who are experiencing estrogen dominance that come at this from a different place. They also have different symptoms. They will probably end up here in a different way, and their solutions to the problem are going to be different than ours. So focusing on what an athlete needs to know, let's keep going. So why does this happen in athletes? Well, we can blame something called pregnenolone steal, which to me sounds like a great name for a band. So here's something you haven't heard before. When you exercise, your body produces cortisol. If you continue to exercise without the chance of recovery, you're going to produce an excess of cortisol. Your body needs to make that cortisol somehow. So what it does is steal from something called pregnenolone to make that cortisol. Unfortunately, pregnenolone is also responsible for creating progesterone. So when you remove that pregnenolone so that you can make more cortisol, you also steal from the production of progesterone. As an athlete, the stress that we're producing is most likely coming from training, but this can happen with any kind of physical, mental, or even perceived stress in your life. Stress comes from a lot of places in life, including environmental factors. And if you do a little bit of research on this whole concept of estrogen dominance, you're going to see that there's some stuff out there talking about the toxins in our environment and how this affects our bodies. For a lot of us, the factors of life stress and also those environmental factors are a little bit out of our wheelhouse or perhaps difficult to control. But what is easy to control for athletes is our amount of training and our nutrition. You're not off the hook totally with the lifestyle stuff. We're going to go back to that. If you are over-exercising, if you are malnourished, if you are not sleeping, if you are not taking care of yourself, this is where you might start to see symptoms of estrogen dominance. So some of the symptoms of estrogen dominance are irregular or abnormal periods. Shocker. Bloating, water retention, and weight gain. Breast swelling and extreme breast tenderness. Headaches, depression, anxiety, trouble sleeping, and yes, a massive PMS. So like I said, this is something that I have personal experience with, and I want to tell you a little bit about my journey with it. So back when I first got my period, so way back over a year ago now, has it really been a full year? I had crazy painful symptoms. My breasts were really painful. I had terrible cramps. The flow was super heavy, and I was really, really struggling. But if you remember correctly, back then I had not stopped running yet. I assumed back then that because I was still on the female hormone tilt-a-whirl, that these extreme symptoms I was getting were pretty normal. Either that or the ovary mafia had come for payment. I didn't really worry too much about the excessive symptoms. I was just happy to get a period at all. Coincidentally, when I stopped running after getting my period, the symptoms decreased. I didn't really make the connection yet though, okay? Because I'm not always that smart. I definitely was not recovered from overtraining syndrome. Let's leave that on the side and let's talk about how my periods were while I was in the thick of training. In November and December, which were my highest volume months of running, again, the symptoms were horrible. I was retaining enough water to probably float a small island. I had massive cramps. My boobs were huge. Wait, I'm not really sure that's a bad thing. My face looked like a moon with all the swelling. In fact, I've shown some of my friends pictures of myself during that time, and I honestly am like, I was getting majorly nauseous around not just ovulation, but also during the time right before I was gonna get my period. And I don't need to tell you that the PMS symptoms were outrageous. Let's just say I was quite moody. Total bitch! By some miracle, I got the message that I needed to stop running again. December 31st, which was New Year's Eve, was actually my last run. It was 13 miles, and truthfully, I felt like absolute crap after that run. It came to me that night, you know what? I need to stop again. When I did, the symptoms went away. My periods were coming regularly, the symptoms were not as bad, I didn't have the crazy breast pain and the PMS and the bloating and the whole shebang. I was feeling much better. It finally hit me. I happened to be listening to this brilliant podcast where the concept of estrogen dominance was mentioned, and it was like a light bulb went off. Holy crap. Estrogen dominance is an alarm going off. When you've got your period back and you start training or maybe make dietary changes that your body is not happy with, you are going to get these massive symptoms that are going to let you know that something is wrong. Now here's where I made the mistake. I assumed that because my symptoms were really strong, that it meant that I was really getting a period and that I was really recovered. In fact, the opposite is true. If you're having normal, healthy periods, not for every woman, of course, but for someone who never had a history of really, really bad symptoms, you should probably not have those crazy symptoms again. I remember saying to my mom, like, I don't even think I had this kind of pain when I was a teenager. Like, why am I having this now? But it all made sense to me after I listened to the podcast. So now, I want to tell you about why I'm dealing with this again. There's a thunderstorm out right now, so if the power goes out, I will just film in the dark. While I was in Colorado, I'm not really sure if it was a combination of altitude or food poisoning, or I'm not really sure what it was, but about the second day I was there, I got really sick. I mean, go into the bathroom, close the door, pray for the Lord Jesus to take your soul. I had diarrhea. I was as nauseous as hell. Poor Addie couldn't drive me anywhere. I had to pull over like every other minute. I couldn't sleep at all. And yeah, I lost weight. I was not happy about that. In fact, I was feeling so crappy and so concerned about the fact that I wasn't able to eat anything and I was basically pooping my brains out, that Addie and I changed a lot of our plans to just sort of chill and relax, which was something that both of us needed to do anyway, because I was really worried. I kind of knew what could possibly happen if I had dropped some weight and my body was feeling stressed from not eating enough. The physical stress of being in the altitude was something that I was completely not used to. And I know now that my body cannot tell the difference between running 10 miles, stress of altitude, stress from, something happening in my life, stress from undernourishment. It's all the same to my body. So I really knew that I had to worry about this. When I got home from Colorado, I didn't run at all. I went for a few nice light walks. I went to a few restorative yoga classes. I made sure I took care of my nutrition. I made sure to sleep, and I really tried to chill out. But you know what? I got whacked. Again, shockingly, I ended up with massively sore breasts, massively bad cramps during ovulation and during period, heavy flow, headaches, really bad nausea. It was not fun. I'm not gonna get mad at myself because it wasn't a plan. I didn't decide to get sick while I was out there. I did everything I could once I got back to mitigate the situation. However, my body did what it did anyway. Here's how I like to frame this. For me, this is a way of understanding my body better. It's probably gonna be different for every woman, but I just wanna share this with you because I know I'm not the only one. If and when you finally get your period back, or maybe you have your period now, but you're suffering with who knows what kind of hormonal imbalances, it's important to know that you can do some things to lower the amount of cortisol that's pumping through your body. When the stress level gets too high, you can reduce exercise. You can reduce the intensity of exercise. You can take different kinds of yoga classes, more restorative. I like to call it old lady yoga, and it's my favorite one. Make sure you're focusing on meditation. Don't skip any days. It really can, over time, add up and help your body deal with stress in a better way. Decrease caffeine. Man, the coffee is good in Colorado, and I drank a lot of it. So when I get home, one of the first things I did was skip the coffee. Make sure you're staying on top of your caloric intake with an emphasis on carbohydrates. How many times have I mentioned? We've talked a million times on this channel before about how cortisol can be reduced with the proper intake of starchy carbohydrates. I don't have to tell you how important sleep is. Now, I am very aware of the fact that there are creams and some other pharmaceutical interventions that you can utilize to possibly fix this situation. For me, I don't like to rely on this stuff. I find that they might fix the problem, but they don't fix the underlying cause. I would rather make changes for myself to ensure long-term success than use something that I can kind of like slather on and it temporarily like fixes things. I got myself here, I'm going to get myself out. Anyway, I do want to tell you that I'm already feeling better. I have not started running again. I may try to like next week or so. I'm hoping that with another full cycle, maybe I can get balanced. I'm sharing this with you because I want you to know that the reality is once you get your period back, not every month is a guarantee. And it's really going to be important for you to make sure that you're staying on top of your situation. The reality is that once you get it back, you still have to work hard to keep it. There's two really cool blogs I want to tell you about. One of them is called Hold Fast Health, and I'm going to link it below. Jenny is the blogger there. She's pretty cool, and she invited me to do a question and answer, which is up right now. And I also want to tell you about this other blog called Teen Runner, and Ellen is the blogger there. She invited a delightful young woman named Tessa from New Zealand to share her story about hypothalamic amenorrhea on her blog. And honestly, I don't care how old you are, you should read it. She is wise beyond her years. I also want to tell you that I am way behind in emails, and I promise that I'll be writing back to everyone before the weekend. Thank you for following me on Instagram. I made 500 followers, which is a small but mighty group, so thank you for that. I hope that this video was helpful today, and I hope that you have a great weekend. I will see you again soon.